What happens when a child grows up unseen? Behind closed doors, silence becomes a prison. This is not about bruises, it's about invisibility. Today we uncover the dark psychology of the forgotten child, the hidden scars that shape identity, and the shocking truth no one dares to speak. Chapter 1: The Silent Room, When Presence Meets Absence. Imagine a child sitting in a room filled with voices, laughter, and movement. The air is alive with sound, yet for that child, it feels like silence. Not because the room is quiet, but because no one turns their head, no one meets their eyes, no one acknowledges their existence. Presence surrounds them, but absence defines their reality. This is the paradox of being ignored. To outsiders it may look harmless, no shouting, no punishment, no bruises. But for the child, invisibility becomes a wound. It is a wound without blood, a scar without a mark, yet it cuts deeper than most people realize. Neglect is not always about cruelty. Sometimes it is about indifference. A parent too busy, a teacher too distracted, a family too consumed by their own storms. The child learns that their voice does not matter, their feelings do not count, and their presence is optional. Over time, silence becomes their prison. Psychologists have long studied the impact of neglect, and one truth stands out. Children do not simply want food and shelter, they crave recognition. They want to be seen, heard, and valued. When this need is denied, the child's mind begins to reshape itself in painful ways. Carl Rogers once said, "When someone really hears you without passing judgment on you, without trying to take responsibility for you, without trying to mold you, it feels damn good." That quote captures the essence of what ignored children are missing. They are not heard. They are not validated. And so, they begin to doubt whether they even exist in the eyes of others. Picture the child again in that room. They try small gestures, showing a drawing, asking a question, laughing at the right moment. But the responses are delayed, distracted, or absent. Eventually the child stops trying. They retreat into themselves, convinced that invisibility is safer than rejection. This silence does not stay in childhood. It follows them into adulthood. The ignored child often grows into the adult who struggles to speak up, who fears being a burden, who feels unseen even in relationships. They may sit at a dinner table with friends and still feel like that child in the silent room. The psychology of neglect is not about one moment, it is about repetition. Day after day, the child learns that their emotions are irrelevant. Their joy, their sadness, their curiosity, all fade into the background. And the longer this continues, the more the child internalizes invisibility as their identity. Some children respond by becoming louder, desperate to break through the silence. Others respond by becoming quieter, fading into the background until they are almost ghost-like. Both are coping strategies, but both are born from the same wound, the wound of being ignored. Think about the power of acknowledgement. A simple nod, a smile, a word of encouragement, these are small gestures that tell a child, "You matter." Without them, the child begins to believe the opposite. And once that belief takes root, it can take years of healing to undo. Neglect is often invisible to outsiders. Teachers may not notice. Neighbors may not suspect. Even extended family may assume everything is fine. But inside the child's mind, a storm is brewing. They are learning lessons no child should learn. That silence is normal, that invisibility is natural, that love is conditional. This is why the psychology of the ignored child is so haunting. It is not about dramatic events, it is about the quiet erosion of self. The child does not scream, does not rebel, does not demand attention. They simply fade. And in fading, they carry a secret pain that few people ever recognize. If you are watching this, pause for a moment and think about the children around you, your own, your students, your relatives. Do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? Sometimes the greatest gift you can give is not money, not toys, not even advice. It is presence. It is the act of looking into their eyes and saying, "I see you." And if this resonates with you, if you want more insights into the hidden corners of psychology, make sure to subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you join a community that values understanding, healing, and the power of being seen. The silent room is not just a metaphor, it is a reality for countless children. But by recognizing it, by naming it, we take the first step toward change. The ignored child does not have to remain invisible forever. Their voice can be heard, their presence can be acknowledged, and their wounds can begin to heal. Chapter 2: Shadows of the Persona, Coping Mechanisms. When a child grows up ignored, they don't simply remain silent forever. The human mind is adaptive, and children are remarkably creative in finding ways to survive emotionally. But survival often comes at a cost. To cope with neglect, many children begin to build masks, personas that allow them to function in a world where their true self feels unwanted. These masks are not chosen consciously. They emerge slowly, shaped by repeated experiences of being overlooked. A child who learns that their joy is ignored may stop showing joy. A child who discovers that their sadness is dismissed may stop crying. Over time, the child begins to hide their authentic emotions, replacing them with behaviors that feel safer. One common mask is the good child. This child becomes obedient, quiet, and eager to please. They excel in school, follow rules, and rarely cause trouble. On the surface, they look like the model child. But beneath the mask, they are desperate for recognition. Their achievements are not just about success. They are attempts to earn the attention they were denied. Every good grade, every polite gesture, every act of responsibility is a silent plea. See me, notice me, value me. Another mask is the invisible child. This child learns that the safest way to avoid pain is to disappear. They withdraw into themselves, avoid drawing attention, and become experts at fading into the background. Teachers may describe them as shy, quiet, or reserved. Family members may say they are independent. But in reality they are hiding. They have learned that invisibility protects them from rejection, even though it also deepens their loneliness. These coping mechanisms are powerful, but they are also dangerous. The good child may grow into an adult who constantly seeks approval, unable to feel worthy without external validation. The invisible child may grow into an adult who struggles to form connections, convinced that their presence is a burden. Both masks prevent authentic living, trapping the person in roles that were never freely chosen. The psychology of these masks is rooted in the need for belonging. Every child wants to belong, to their family, to their peers, to the world. When belonging is denied, the child does not stop wanting it. Instead, they reshape themselves to fit what they believe will finally earn acceptance. The mask becomes their survival strategy. But masks are heavy. They require constant effort to maintain. The good child must always perform, always achieve, always smile. The invisible child must always retreat, always silence their voice, always suppress their needs. This effort drains the child, leaving them exhausted and disconnected from their true self. Imagine a child who desperately wants to share a story about their day, but no one listens. The next day they decide not to share. A week later they stop trying altogether. Soon they wear the mask of silence. Or imagine a child who discovers that praise only comes when they excel. They push themselves harder and harder, until achievement becomes their identity. Soon they wear the mask of perfection. These masks are not just emotional, they are psychological defenses. They protect the child from the pain of rejection, but they also prevent the child from experiencing genuine connection. The child learns to survive but not to thrive. As adults, these coping mechanisms often persist. The good child becomes the perfectionist, the people pleaser, the workaholic. They struggle to say no, terrified of disappointing others. The invisible child becomes the loner, the self-doubter, the one who feels unseen even in relationships. They struggle to speak up, convinced their voice has no value. The tragedy is that these adults often don't realize where their behaviors come from. They may think they are naturally shy, naturally hardworking, naturally reserved. But beneath those traits lies the shadow of neglect, the coping mechanisms of the ignored child. The concept of the shadow, drawn from psychology, helps explain this. The shadow is the part of ourselves we hide, suppress, or deny. For the ignored child, the shadow is filled with unmet needs. The need to be loved, the need to be heard, the need to be valued. These needs don't disappear. They remain in the shadow, influencing behavior in subtle but powerful ways. When the ignored child grows up, their shadow often shows itself in moments of vulnerability. A perfectionist may break down when they fail, revealing the hidden fear of being unseen. A loner may feel sudden anger when overlooked, revealing the hidden desire to be acknowledged. These moments are glimpses of the shadow, the authentic self crying out beneath the mask. Understanding these coping mechanisms is crucial, because they explain why so many adults struggle with identity, relationships, and self-worth. The masks they wear are not flaws, they are survival strategies. But survival is not enough. To live fully, the masks must eventually be removed. Removing the mask is not easy. It requires courage to face the shadow, to acknowledge the pain of neglect, and to reclaim the parts of the self that were hidden. It means learning to say, "I matter," even when no one else said it before. It means daring to show joy, sadness, anger, and vulnerability, even when those emotions were once ignored. The journey of healing begins with recognition. Recognizing the mask, recognizing the shadow, recognizing the wound. Once these are named, they can be faced. And once they are faced, they can be healed. The ignored child may have grown up wearing masks, but they are not doomed to wear them forever. The shadow can be integrated, the persona can be reshaped, and the authentic self can emerge. It is a long journey, but it is possible. The silent room of neglect creates masks, but the act of seeing, hearing, and valuing oneself can remove them. The child who was ignored can become the adult who is finally visible, not through performance, not through invisibility, but through authenticity. Chapter 3: Reclaiming Visibility, From Silence to Voice. The ignored child grows up carrying shadows. They learn masks, they learn silence, they learn survival. But survival is not the end of the story. There is another path, one that leads from invisibility to visibility, from silence to voice, from being forgotten to being remembered. This chapter is about that transformation. Healing begins with recognition. For years, the ignored child may have believed that their invisibility was natural, that their silence was simply who they were. But the truth is different. Silence was learned. Invisibility was imposed. Recognition means understanding that these patterns were not chosen freely, they were survival strategies. And once that realization dawns, the possibility of change opens. Imagine an adult who has always felt unseen. They sit in meetings, hesitant to speak. They avoid conflict, terrified of rejection. They smile politely even when they feel invisible. One day they realize, this is not who they truly are. This is the mask of the ignored child. That moment of recognition is powerful. It is the first crack in the wall of silence. The journey from silence to voice is not sudden. It is gradual, often fragile. It begins with small acts of visibility, speaking up in a conversation, sharing a personal story, allowing emotions to be expressed without shame. Each act is a step toward reclaiming the self that was hidden. Visibility is not about shouting or demanding attention. It is about authenticity. It is about daring to show the parts of oneself that were once ignored. The child who was silenced learns to say, "This is me." The adult who was invisible learns to say, "I matter." These are simple words, but they carry immense weight. Healing also requires connection. The ignored child grew up without recognition, but recognition can be found in relationships. Friends, partners, mentors, people who truly see and hear us, become mirrors that reflect our worth. When someone listens, when someone validates, when someone acknowledges, the ignored child within begins to heal. But connection is not only external, it is also internal. The ignored child must learn to see themselves, to hear themselves, to validate their own emotions. Self-recognition is the foundation of healing. It means looking in the mirror and saying, "I see you. I hear you. You matter." For many, this is the hardest step because it requires facing the shadow of neglect. Yet it is also the most liberating. Transformation often involves confronting pain. The ignored child carries wounds, feelings of rejection, loneliness, invisibility. Healing means allowing those wounds to surface, acknowledging them and giving them space. It means crying for the silence, grieving for the invisibility, and then choosing to move forward. Pain cannot be erased, but it can be integrated. Integration is the process of bringing the shadow into the light. The ignored child's unmet needs, the need for love, for recognition, for belonging, must be acknowledged and embraced. They are not weaknesses. They are human truths. By integrating them, the adult becomes whole. They no longer need masks. They no longer need silence. They can live authentically. Consider the symbolic act of tearing down a wall of blank posters. Each poster represents invisibility, silence, neglect. As the wall comes down, a vibrant mural is revealed underneath. That mural is the authentic self, the colors of joy, sadness, anger, love, creativity. The ignored child becomes visible, not through performance or invisibility, but through authenticity. The psychology of healing is not about erasing the past. It is about rewriting the present. The ignored child cannot change what happened, but they can change how they live now. They can choose to speak, to connect, to be seen. They can choose to reclaim visibility. This journey is deeply personal, but it is also universal. Many people carry the wounds of neglect. Many people feel unseen. By sharing stories, by speaking openly, by breaking the silence, we create a culture of recognition. We remind each other that invisibility is not destiny. Visibility is possible. The transformation from silence to voice is not about perfection. It is about progress. Some days the ignored child may still feel invisible. Some moments may still trigger old wounds. But each step toward authenticity is a victory. Each act of visibility is a declaration, I am here. Reclaiming visibility also means redefining identity. The ignored child often grew up believing they were unworthy, unimportant, invisible. Healing means rewriting that narrative. It means saying, I am worthy. I am important. I am visible. This new identity is not built on masks or silence. It is built on truth. The adult who reclaims visibility becomes a beacon. They show others that healing is possible, that silence can be broken, that invisibility can be overcome. Their voice inspires others to find their own. Their authenticity creates space for others to be authentic. In this way, the healing of one becomes the healing of many. The ignored child's journey is painful, but it is also powerful. From silence, they learn the value of voice. From invisibility, they learn the importance of recognition. From neglect, they learn the necessity of connection. Their wounds become wisdom, their scars become strength, their shadow becomes light. Reclaiming visibility is not the end, it is the beginning. It is the beginning of a life lived authentically, a life where the ignored child is no longer forgotten, but remembered, valued, and seen. It is the beginning of a voice that speaks, a presence that shines, a self that is whole. The silent room may have defined the past, but it does not define the future. The masks may have protected, but they are no longer needed. The shadow may have hidden, but it can now be embraced. The ignored child can step into the light, reclaim their visibility, and finally say, I am here.